there is a lot of talk about whether or not we've reached an AI bubble. There are definitely comparisons to 1999 being made in the marketplace. We may have, but it's really hard to tell. This one's different. And everybody likes to compare one bubble or one bust to the one before that they're most familiar with because they have the benefit of hindsight of how it turned out. There are lots and lots of companies that are spending enormous amount of money that they will never get a good ROI on. But that doesn't mean that it's a bubble. What a bubble usually comes from is where valuations in a particular area have gotten so extreme that you can never make money really by buying that investment at that time. So here's a little trivia question for you. Cisco Systems, which is obviously one of the most successful, important companies to the backbone that allows the internet to do its thing. And just think about it for a second, ChatGPT could not be on your desktop without likely a lot of Cisco stuff. But over time, they have not had as much pricing power, but I mean, they continue to grow and they've grown every year, I mean, pretty significantly. But if you actually look at a chart of the stock price, the stock has still not hit its high that it hit in 1999 because it was so overvalued because you couldn't do the internet without it. That was the internet.com bubble. And so as a result, you literally were, having valuations that were just absurd. Some of you may have heard the story. I'll talk about one of our shareholders at the time. He's like, Christopher, obviously the program hadn't started yet in 1999. I don't understand. Why haven't you bought, Cisco Systems for me? I mean, the stock just goes up every day. Why don't we own it? And I said, well, you know what? I got that Marble Slab ice cream store on the Riverwalk in San Antonio. How many of y'all have actually have bought ice cream at the Riverwalk Marble Slab ice cream? Okay. I was the largest franchisee of Marble Slab ice cream at one time, for those of you that don't know that history. And we had 4 stores in San Antonio, one of which was on the Riverwalk. If you've ever been to the Riverwalk, when you do the little boat tour that almost everybody does, it's the touristy thing to do. Right as soon as you get off, you're hot, you've been in the sun, and as soon as you walk up the stairs, there's a Marble Slab ice cream right there. Who would not want ice cream after going on a hot boat ride? Every child will, I can assure you. That entire store was smaller than this room. That store, this was literally 1999, was doing $500,000 in revenue out of this small of a location, because we just had people in there all day, every day. I don't even know it's still there. Based on this, I'm assuming not. We sold it in 2004. It's generating about $200,000 of profit a year on $500,000 in revenue, which is off the charts margins for, so I mean, incredibly profitable business. It's now Cold Stone, probably is what it is. If you've gone to the Cold Stone Creamery, Cold Stone bought Marble Slab, right? So Joe, one of our shareholders, said, Christopher, why don't you buy Cisco every day? Why don't you buy Cisco? He was literally just beating me up constantly. Stock's at 60, and it goes to 70, and it goes to 80. He's like, would you please buy this for me? I said, Joe, I got this Marble Slab ice cream store in San Antonio on the Riverwalk. I'll tell you what, I'll sell you just that one store. He said, that's interesting. Tell me about it. I told him about it. He said, how much? I said, I'll sell it to you for $20 million. He's like, what? Why would I pay you $20 million for $200,000 a year in cash flow? And I said, why do you want me to buy Cisco? Click. Obviously, I had a very good relationship with Joe. He'd been an investor with me since 1991. All right, so I had 8-year history with him at that time. We were good friends, still are good friends. So don't get to see him very often. But that's exactly the math. Cisco Systems was trading at 100 times earnings at that time. It was absurd, but people were willing to buy it because it was going up. By the way, it didn't stop going up. It kept going up another 50% from there. So it would have been like selling that ice cream store for $30 million for 200 grand in profit. Nobody would do that. Stock still hasn't hit that high. So this bubble, there are firms, there are companies that people are paying valuations for, and we're cautioning the IM team every day about, okay, can we really justify these valuations? Because they may grow into them and they may not. There's a lot of companies that are going to waste a ton of money but they're gonna build stuff that can actually be used, and that's probably the biggest difference. The dot-com bubble, you had literally companies like buy.com, which has reinvented itself, it's still a real thing, it's a great URL. But buy.com, literally their business philosophy is we're going to buy something and we're going to sell it to the consumer for less than we bought it for. We're going to lose money on every transaction. And literally their theory was we're going to make it up in volume. Math does not work, but they were hoping to get to critical mass and scale. And by the way, for those of you that don't know the history, Amazon barely made money on anything they sold for a long time. But by getting so big, they were able to drive down their costs and to get lots of other business lines around it, which ultimately did allow their business to become what is Amazon today, but not then. But buy.com said, if Amazon can do it, we can do it even better, and we're just gonna lose money on everything, not make a very small amount. Same thing with NVIDIA. Go back and read the quarterly letter, we use it a lot. NVIDIA was worth more than all of the other, automobile manufacturers combined in 2021 during the SPAC bubble. That was a real bubble. There is an AI bubble out there, but I can't tell you if it's completely all over or just in specific things. Data centers is where people try to point to, if AI slows, then you're going to have this drop off in demand and a whole bunch of people are going to have data centers they don't need. Well, the reality is that data center is still going to exist and maybe they don't get a great return on it, but it's not like going to get shuttered like a warehouse because you're still going to need that computing power because AI is not going away. And it's going to continue to eat a lot of resources, which is why energy is the third derivative way to really, and let me make sure everybody hears me. The third derivative way to benefit from the AI wave is energy, because the first derivative obviously is owning a company doing AI, OpenAI, ChatGPT. The second way is to own the data centers that they must have or chips to be able to operate those systems. But the third derivative is you must have the power to operate it. Otherwise, it just looks pretty and doesn't do nothing. And we don't get our responses from any of the AI that's out there. So companies are going to have to start getting an ROI. And this is my general theory on this. And this is totally 100% unpolished. There's a lot of companies right now that are investing enormous amount. We're included in that, in building out AI. And I think everybody here is getting some ROI on that, but not a lot, because we're still learning and we're still trying to figure out really what it can do for us. And there are still some limitations on its capabilities for certain things. But that's changing literally every second of every day. And what it feels like to me is that we're going to see this hockey stick of productivity. And I have no idea what's going to be the catalyst for that. It could be just a new model or a new capability or just human beings figuring out how to use it better. Because if they do that, then all of a sudden the productivity gains are going to be enormous. So it's really tough to say something is in a bubble simply because of the fact that it's gone up a lot. It has to be when people are literally just throwing money down a drain that it feels like a bubble and irrational thought has completely left the building. There are pockets of that in AI. There's a lot of PowerPoints in a garage that are getting billion-dollar valuations that should not. But then there's a lot of 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 billion valuation companies that very well could go on to become trillion-dollar companies. There will be winners and losers. There's always winners and losers. That doesn't make it a bubble. A bubble is when literally everybody is throwing money at everything and the vast majority of it is not going to work, like the SPAC bubble, like the dot-com bubble, like the real estate bubble in 2006, 2007.